Donald Trump says, release the Epstein files. Welcome to Law and Society. Please subscribe. We're going to go into the post, the long post that Donald Trump has made about the Epstein files and other things, and read between the lies. So here we go. As I said on Friday night aboard Air Force One to the fake news media, like he cakes on all these different lies, right? Like fake news media. It's built into his vocabulary so as to normalize what is absolutely not normal. House Republicans should vote to release the Epstein files because we have nothing to hide, and it's time to move on from this Democratic hoax perpetrated by radical left lunatics in order to deflect from the great success of the Republican Party, including our recent victory on the Democrat shutdown. First of all, the fact that he's saying that he has nothing left to hide, there's nothing to hide, I am of the mind that believes that Donald Trump's DOJ has already done all of its redactions of Donald Trump's references in the Epstein files, and so Donald Trump can now come out and say, yeah, go ahead and release the files. Had they released the files exactly when Pam Bondi got the files, before there were inklings that Donald Trump is all over the files, then at that time, remember, Donald Trump months ago did not want to talk about the files. He did not want to really, he was avoiding the topic, and then he was deflecting, and then he was really like going after people who want the Epstein files released. But then all of a sudden he posts, vote to release the Epstein files. The only thing I can think of is that Pam Bondi has redacted every mention of Donald Trump from the Epstein files, and so now it is safe for Donald Trump to release them. To move on from this Democratic hoax perpetrated by radical left Democrats. Mind you, releasing the Epstein files was one of Donald Trump's campaign promises. That was one of MAGA's demands and one of Donald Trump's promises to his voting public, to MAGA. Then he talks about the great success of the Republican Party in the victory in the shutdown. I don't know if you call playing with people's hunger to be a win or loss thing, but Democrats did cave. But Democrats caved because they didn't want to see Americans suffer any more than Americans were suffering already, because Donald Trump and the Republicans did not care whether the SNAP was going out or not. They went to court to stop SNAP emergency funds from being released, whereas previous presidents have used emergency SNAP funds to make up for the lag in cases where there wasn't enough money allocated to the food assistance program. Here, Republicans and Donald Trump deliberately wanted to keep the government shut down in order to own the libs, like Donald Trump is doing now, instead of letting the SNAP funding, releasing it, then negotiating something about Affordable Care Act tax credits to remain as opposed to be expiring at the end of December or in the middle of December. And that didn't happen. So the Democrats did lose out on that. Then he goes on to say, the Department of Justice has already turned over tens of thousands of pages to the public on the Epstein, are looking at various Democrat operatives. Now, the tens of thousands of pages that were released by the DOJ were already public record, and they were not information that would support the claims of the survivors and also provide reference to which particular influential, powerful men were abusing little girls and effectively raping girls on Epstein's island. We don't know about all of that information because the DOJ's investigative information is still under wraps. And that's perhaps, they don't want to release them, so they are trying to investigate, open up the investigation into the Epstein victims and survivors in order to say that we can't release information from when there's an ongoing investigation. But here, Donald Trump undercuts it all by saying release the files. So maybe they will release the files. And the Democrat operatives they're going after is Bill Clinton, Reid Hoffman, Larry Summers, etc. Now, let them go after. It is completely all right for them to go after these Democrat operatives, however you want to put it. Anybody who abused children should be held accountable. It doesn't matter if it is a former president or if it is a current sitting president. And their relationships to Epstein, and the House Oversight Committee can have whatever they are legally entitled to. I don't care. So he's realizing that he's losing the Epstein fight both in chambers of Congress as well as in the court of public opinion. And now that he has been redacted from the files, he has nothing to lose if those files come out. All I do care about is about that Republicans get back on point, which is the economy, affordability, where we are winning big. First of all, Donald Trump promised to lower the cost of living on his first day of office. Not only did he fail to fulfill that promise, inflation has been going up consistently month over month since he has been president. And the last time he talked about affordability, he said he doesn't want to hear about affordability. This is the first time that he's coming out talking about the economy and affordability. And apparently he's already winning big because he is taking off tariffs on food products because that's the way he wants to lower inflation. In a way that is also admitting that tariffs are causing the inflation. And they are not winning big on affordability because majority of grocery items are still more expensive today than it was when Donald Trump took office. Our victory on reducing inflation, which they have been largely unsuccessful at, from the highest level in history to practically nothing, that's not true. There's always some level of inflation that happens. Prices go up, but not this consistently, not this way when wages stagnate and jobs stagnate. Our victory on reducing inflation from the highest level to nothing. Okay, that's not true. Bringing down prices for the American people, delivering historic tax cuts, bringing down prices for the American people was his central promise. And here we are in the 10th month of his presidency without him having actually accomplished anything to bring down the prices. In fact, what he has done is impose taxes on the American people by tariffing products that are coming into the United States, and companies are passing that along to consumers. Delivering historic tax cuts. Remember, delivering historic tax cuts to the wealthy. He has done nothing to cut the expenses of regular working people. In fact, with the expiry of the Affordable Care Act and with the SNAP cuts that's coming up in his big bad bill, Donald Trump will have taken away thousands of dollars from poor and working families instead of giving them tax cuts. Gaining trillions of dollars investment into America, a record. There's no record, first of all, of the trillions of dollars in investment coming in because of the tariffs, and the number is actually closer to 200 billion as opposed to some trillions, which is not happening. Trillions of dollars is not coming into the United States in investment. And it hasn't happened, and it's been 10 months since Donald Trump has been president. Rebuilding our military. Our military was already good. Our military was ready. Our military had a strong backbone. We had strong policies that supported all service members. And now we have a military that is being led by Pete Hegseth, who doesn't want fat people or bearded people or transgender people in the military. Securing our border. How he has specifically secured our border, other than by deploying troops, I don't know. And whether that really is securing our border any more than our border was secure before, maybe marginal. But what is not marginal is the cost of these extra troops being deployed to the border. Deporting criminal aliens. 70 to 80% of the people, no, I think it's more than that. I think 95% of the people who are being detained and illegally seized, don't have a criminal record. And in their ploy to get rid of illegal aliens, there's no such thing as illegal humans. They're undocumented immigrants. And the fact that they are not criminal is being showed over and over and over again in more cases than not. Like, for example, none of those alleged Tren de Aragua members in the Chicago apartment complex that was raided by ICE, none of them were implicated in that particular raid. But they are going after illegal aliens. And under the guise of that, they're going after homeless people, mentally ill people, people who are Antifa, people who identify as anti-fascist. So the dragnet of the police state that he hangs on criminal, illegal aliens is actually a dragnet to bring everybody to heel who opposes Donald Trump's regime and police state. Ending men in women's sports. Stopping transgender for everyone. What does that even mean? Transgender for everyone? Nobody wants to be transgender if they're not transgender. Nobody wants their life to be difficult at a time, especially now, when living as transgender people is difficult and you're subjected to harassment constantly. A historically marginalized group, and here is our government facially discriminating against a group that has been historically marginalized and attacked and pushed to the fringes. And you're just proud of it? You're proud of terrorizing transgender Americans? Then he goes on to say, nobody cared about Jeffrey Epstein when he was alive. Well, yeah, they did. He was in jail because of what he did. He was in prison because of what he did. And so is Ghislaine Maxwell, who you have moved to Club Fed, who's getting her food done specifically and living there and has a puppy. Like, I have deep concerns for the well-being of that puppy. So, if the Democrats had anything, they would have released it before the landslide election victory, before our landslide election victory. First of all, it was not a landslide election victory. More people voted against Donald Trump than they did Donald Trump. But Donald Trump did win by 2 million votes, which is not a landslide. And Democrats did not want to use materials that were damaging to Donald Trump's bigger image, or Democrats did not find as distasteful exposure to be politically viable, and so they didn't. And you know, if there's nothing in them, if Democrats would have released them if there was something in them, then why have you been stonewalling the American people for the last 10 months? Then he goes on to say, some members of the Republican Party are being used, and we cannot let that happen. I think he's referring to Marjorie Taylor Greene, because he's seeing more and more Republicans turn away from him on the Epstein issue, and on the issue of the fact that American people are not happy about the cost of living, and the fact that their health insurance is going to expire, and their health insurance is going to double and triple once the Affordable Care subsidies expire. Let's start talking about the Republican Party's record-setting achievements. What are the record-setting achievements? Inflation, detainment of undocumented immigrants, as well as U.S. citizens being wrangled up in Donald Trump's illegal raids, tariffs that have increased the price of everything and has increased the price of trade, wrong decision, connections with different new allies who are not traditionally American allies, and essentially unfriending and cutting ties with Europe, Canada, Mexico by imposing tariffs, China by imposing tariffs, India by imposing tariffs. Now with some of the food tariffs being cut down, India is getting some relief because India exports a lot of food products to the United States. So what are the accomplishments that they have, those records that they have set? Let's talk about our achievements and not fall into the Epstein trap, which is actually a curse on the Democrats, not us. What trap? Nobody wants to be in a trap. Anybody who is involved in being a child sex predator should be held accountable, whether that be Democratic, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, Green Party, whatever it is. Anybody who has abused children should be held accountable. So it's not a Democrat-Republican thing. And then he goes, make America great again, at a time where America couldn't be any less great because of Donald Trump's police state and because of his trade tariffs, which hopefully the Supreme Court is going to nullify because they are illegal, because IEPA does not give presidents the power to tariff, only the power to regulate. And Donald Trump doesn't have the power to tariff, only Congress does. So there has been no accomplishments by this administration, and I believe that the Epstein files are ready to be released, and Donald's gotten that report from Pam Bondi that his name has been redacted from all of this release materials, and that's why he's okay with releasing him right now. So here we go. This is, I think, the first time that I've point by point fact checked Donald Trump in his post, because first of all, it's exhausting. Secondly, I've just taken 20 minutes to fact check Donald Trump, and he doesn't even spend 5 minutes to write a post that is ingrained with phrases like fake news media to be able to create the false premise before even talking about anything that has to do with reality and fact. So this is how Donald Trump tries to corral the Republican base now that he's seeing that his own people are fleeing his support. They are realizing that Donald Trump betrayed them, and Donald Trump now has wind of it. So with that said, thank you for listening. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.